Have you ever looked around your home and thought, why does it feel so heavy, even when everything seems fine? Not just heavy in clutter, but heavy in spirit, like you're holding on to things you don't even need, physically and emotionally, just because you always have. Here's something many of us never expect. After 60, peace doesn't come from having more. It comes from needing less. But the world keeps selling us stuff we don't need. Kitchen tools for meals we don't cook anymore. Gadgets that confuse more than they help. Decorations we take out once a year and never with joy. Slowly, quietly, all of it adds up, not just in your wallet, but in your heart. And one day you realize the things you own might be owning you. But what if you could let go? Not all at once, not with guilt, just gently, starting today. In this video, I want to walk with you through 15 everyday things we often keep buying after 60, but maybe, just maybe, don't need anymore. And more importantly, we'll talk about what we gain when we stop. Space, calm, clarity, and that deep exhale we've all been craving. So if you've ever stood in your own living room holding something and wondering, do I really need this? You're in the right place. Grab your cup of tea, settle in, and let's gently explore how letting go of a few small things might open the door to a lot more peace. Let's begin right now. The emotional cost of clutter. It's more than just money. I used to think clutter was just a matter of space. A full drawer here, a packed closet there. No big deal. But over time, I started to notice something deeper, something heavier. It wasn't the mess that weighed on me. It was the silent noise it created in my heart. Every time I opened a cabinet and things spilled out, it wasn't just an inconvenience. It was a reminder of all the things I meant to deal with but didn't, all the decisions I postponed, all the unfinished parts of life that were now staring me in the face. You see, clutter doesn't just take up room on a shelf, it takes up room in our peace of mind. That bread maker we used once in 2004, it whispers, "You never got around to homemade bread." That pile of old receipts or holiday decorations we no longer enjoy, they tug at old versions of ourselves. And instead of feeling free in our own home, we start to feel surrounded by quiet guilt. It's like our space becomes a museum of should-haves and might uses and one day I wills. I remember one Saturday morning, I was dusting off an old blender on top of the fridge. It hadn't worked in years, but I kept it. Why? Because it was expensive. Because I felt bad throwing it out. Because I thought maybe I'd fix it someday. But deep down I knew every time I looked at it, it just reminded me of money wasted and intentions never met. That's when it clicked. Keeping something out of guilt doesn't honor its value. It multiplies the cost. And the cost isn't just money, it's emotional. It's mental. Sometimes even spiritual. Because when your space is full of things that don't serve you, it's hard to hear what your heart really needs. When you walk into a room and feel overwhelmed instead of welcomed, that's not just a clutter problem, it's a peace problem. But the good news is, we're not stuck with it. Every item you release is a weight off your spirit, a small yes to clarity, to lightness, to living now, not in the past. So as we move forward, keep this close. Decluttering isn't about getting rid of stuff. It's about making space for who you are today, not who you used to be or who you felt pressured to become. Let's take the next step together and look at the first few things that may be quietly stealing more than just your money. Letting go with love. 5. Sentimental things we can release. Some of the hardest things to let go of aren't the ones we bought on sale or forgot in the garage. They're the ones tied to our memories, the soft echoes of who we were, who we loved, and what we once dreamed. And yet, if we're honest with ourselves, sometimes holding on too tightly can begin to blur the line between honoring the past and getting stuck in it. I remember opening a box marked Mom's Things years after she passed. Inside were dozens of scarves, her favorite teacups, handwritten recipes faded by time. I held each item like it was a fragile piece of her. And for a moment, it felt like letting go would be letting her go. But then I realized the love, the stories, the laughter in her kitchen, those weren't inside a chipped cup or an old apron. They were inside me. Letting go of an object didn't erase her memory. It just made more room to feel her presence fully, without the weight of storage bins and musty closets. So let's talk about 5 sentimental things many of us keep and how we can gently release them with love, not loss. 1. Old clothes that carry a memory. Maybe it's your wedding dress, your husband's favorite flannel shirt, or that sweater your child wore in second grade. They feel sacred. But ask yourself, do I need the fabric to keep the feeling? Could I take a photo or save a small piece and let the rest go? Sometimes keeping one meaningful item, like a single button sewn into a memory quilt, brings more peace than an entire box of untouched clothes in the attic. 2. Childhood artwork and school papers. Our kids and grandkids are brilliant, no doubt. And those little crayon drawings or A-plus math tests make us proud. But when the collection begins to overflow into multiple bins, it's okay to choose just a few to treasure. Pick the ones that bring a smile, scan others into a digital album, and trust that love isn't measured by the volume of what we save. It's in the attention we gave when they first showed us their work. 3. Gifts you never used but feel guilty giving away. Oh, the guilt of the unused gift. A decorative plate from a distant cousin, a perfume you're allergic to. We keep them out of politeness, but they become burdens, not blessings. Remember, gifts are about the giving moment and not the object itself. You can be grateful for the thought and still pass the item along to someone who will truly use and appreciate it. 4. Inherited furniture that doesn't fit your life. The big oak table from your grandmother, the velvet armchair your uncle loved. They come with stories and history, but they also take up space you may need for your own rhythm of living. Consider taking a photo, writing down a memory, and gifting the piece to someone who will actually use it. Love doesn't sit in furniture. It lives in how we remember the people who used it. 5. Old letters, cards, and notes. Some bring tears, some bring joy. Some we haven't read in decades. Try sitting down with a cup of tea and reading through them slowly. Save the ones that still touch your heart. Recycle or burn the rest with a quiet thank you. Not every note needs to be kept to keep its message alive. Letting go of sentimental items is not forgetting. It's choosing presence over storage. It's allowing the light of memory to shine without being buried under boxes. And most of all, it's trusting that what truly mattered, the love, the laughter, the life, you carry that in your soul, not on a shelf. Now, as we move forward, let's talk about some of the everyday things that may be quietly draining not just space, but energy, and how saying goodbye to them can be a powerful act of self-love. When saving becomes wasting, 4 habits that cost more than we think. There's a funny thing about growing up during harder times. Many of us learned the value of saving early. Saving leftovers, saving rubber bands, saving every twist tie from a loaf of bread. Nothing went to waste because we couldn't afford waste. But somewhere along the way, the habit of saving started costing us in ways we didn't expect. Not always in dollars, but in space, peace, and sometimes even joy. I remember visiting a dear friend of mine, lovely lady, big heart. She had kitchen cabinets full of old plastic containers, some without lids, some with lids that didn't match anything anymore. Just in case, she said, you never know when you might need them. And I nodded because I understood, but I also saw how it weighed on her. She couldn't find what she actually needed. The clutter made cooking more stressful, not easier. That's when I realized saving can turn into hoarding when fear whispers louder than usefulness. Let's look at 4 saving habits that quietly cost more than they give. 1. Saving good things for special days that never come. We all have them. The nice candles, the fancy soap, the dress we bought but never wore. We tell ourselves we're waiting for a special occasion, but life is made of ordinary days, not just holidays. Using those good things now brings joy today, not someday. A guest towel doesn't need a guest to be appreciated. Burn the nice candle on a Tuesday. Wear the scarf to the grocery store. Celebrate being alive now, not just when company's over. 2. Keeping expired items just in case. Old spices, outdated makeup, expired medication, even pantry goods far past their prime. They linger because tossing them feels like wasting money. But the real waste is in the harm or confusion they bring. Expired medicine can be dangerous. Old food can make us sick. Even expired lotion can irritate the skin. Better to let them go with grace than to risk our well-being out of guilt. 3. Holding on to broken things with fix it one day and intentions. A lamp that needs a cord. A chair that wobbles. A coffee maker that hasn't perked in years. We keep them thinking, one day I'll get around to it. But if a year has passed and they're still untouched, maybe the real gift is giving ourselves permission to release them. Fixing everything isn't a badge of honor. It's a burden we can lay down. If it mattered that much, we'd have fixed it by now. If we haven't, maybe it's because deep down, we know we don't need it. 4. Storing bulk purchases. We never finish buying in bulk used to make sense when the house was full of growing kids and big appetites. But now, a 10-pound bag of rice lasts forever and clutters the pantry. Oversized packages of snacks or soap might seem cost-effective, but they often expire or go stale before we get through them. Smaller portions, fresher choices, and a little more room in the cabinet. It's a wiser trade as our household rhythms change. Each of these habits started from a place of care, from being mindful, resourceful, even protective. But when we cling too tightly, we stop letting life flow. Saving isn't bad, but saving without purpose, saving out of fear, or saving to the point that it steals ease from our days, that's when it becomes waste in disguise. So as we continue this journey, I invite you to take a gentle look around, not with judgment, but with curiosity. What are you holding on to just in case that might be ready to go? Because sometimes the kindest thing we can do for ourselves isn't to keep, but to release with love and make room for what serves us now. The Freedom Shelf, a ritual to start fresh. Years ago, a friend of mine shared something simple that changed the way I look at my home and maybe even my heart. She called it her Freedom Shelf, not a fancy shelf or an expensive one, just a small, empty space on a bookcase near her kitchen. But it held no decorations, no keepsakes, no clutter, just air, light, stillness. She told me, I keep it empty on purpose. It reminds me that I don't have to fill every space in my life. Some spaces are meant for breathing. Isn't that something? In a world that tells us to own more, fill more, keep more, the idea of intentionally leaving something empty feels almost radical. But for many of us, especially in this chapter of life, it's also healing. The Freedom Shelf is more than a piece of furniture. It's a quiet ritual, a space that symbolizes what you've let go of and the peace that comes in its place. When you clear just one shelf, remove the dust-covered knickknacks, the papers you meant to file, the things you kept out of habit, and leave it bare, you're making a bold and loving statement. I don't need more to feel enough. I remember the first time I made mine. I hesitated. I kept thinking, shouldn't I put something meaningful here? A vase? A photo? But then I let it be. And every time I passed by, I felt something shift, a quiet exhale, a reminder that open space is not emptiness, it's possibility. You don't need to empty the whole house, just one shelf, one drawer, one little corner. It becomes a symbol, a practice, a beginning. Like taking your shoes off at the door, not because you're finished with the journey, but because you're entering a space that deserves gentleness. And here's the beauty: the freedom shelf is never truly empty. It holds your courage, your growth, your trust in what's next. It whispers to you, there's room now for joy, for calm, for whatever this season will bring. So if your home feels heavy or your heart feels cluttered, try this small step. Find one shelf, clear it with care, leave it open, and see what happens. Because sometimes it's not what we store that defines our space, but what we allow ourselves to release. And now, let's look at a few small treasures many of us can let go of, not out of guilt, but with grace. They've served their time. Now it's time to make room for peace. Let's begin. Choosing what to keep. A new way to look at your home. I remember a time in my life when I thought keeping things was a form of love. Every birthday card, every souvenir from a vacation, every little kitchen tool that might come in handy one day, I held on to it all. Not because I needed it, but because I didn't want to forget. Or worse, let go of something that once meant something. But over time, I realized something tender and true. Choosing what to keep is not about how much you can hold on to. It's about how deeply you want to feel at peace in your space. And that means we have to start asking a new kind of question, not, what if I need this someday? But does this serve who I am today? You see, every item in your home carries a message. Some whisper comfort. Others weigh you down. Some remind you of love and warmth, while others pull you back into worry, guilt, or simply old versions of yourself that you've quietly outgrown. So what if instead of keeping things just in case, we keep things just because they bring peace or joy or purpose? What if the bar wasn't usefulness, but emotional nourishment? Let me give you an example. I had a mug, just a mug, that I used to reach for every morning. It was chipped, faded, but it had this memory attached to it. Morning coffee with my late husband. Quiet laughter at the kitchen table. It didn't match anything else in my cupboard, but it made my heart feel full. That mug stays. Not because it's practical, but because it's meaningful. But next to it were 6 other mugs I never touched. Gifts I felt too guilty to give away. Souvenirs from places I barely remembered. Those went. Not with bitterness, but with gratitude. And the understanding that letting go is not erasing a memory. It's making space for the memories that truly matter. As we walk through this season of life, we get to redefine what abundance means. Not more things, but more meaning. Not fuller closets, but freer breathing. When you begin choosing what to keep with intention, your home begins to change. It softens. It becomes a reflection of your heart, not your history. So today, I invite you to look at one corner of your home, not with a sense of duty, but with curiosity. Pick up each item and ask, does this bless me now? If yes, let it stay. If not, let it go with kindness. Because when your home holds only what supports and reflects who you truly are, it becomes more than shelter. It becomes sanctuary. Now, with this new lens in mind, let's look ahead. Because letting go isn't the end of something. It's the beginning of something much lighter. Let's take one final loving look at what this journey really gives back to us, far beyond space or savings. A gentle challenge, 3-day letting go ritual. I'd like to offer you something now, not a task, not a rule, but a gentle challenge. Something simple you can try over the next 3 days. A quiet little ritual to help you reconnect with your home and with yourself. We'll call it the 3 day letting go ritual. And it begins not with a trash bag, but with a pause, a breath, and a question. What can I release today to feel lighter tomorrow? Day one is for the easy wins. Walk into a drawer, a cabinet, or a shelf, anywhere, and find just 5 things you no longer use, no longer need, or no longer love. Maybe it's old batteries that don't work, manuals for devices you no longer own, a collection of pens that no longer write. Don't overthink it. This isn't about judgment, it's about ease. Day two is for gentle memories. Pick a small box, a corner of the closet, maybe a drawer filled with keepsakes. Look at each item with love. Ask yourself, does this still speak to who I am today? You might find something beautiful to hold on to, but you might also find that it's okay to let certain things go and keep the memory, not the object. I remember doing this with a drawer full of birthday cards. I kept 3. The ones with messages that made my heart swell. The rest, I read one more time, whispered thank you, and let them go. Day 3 is the most powerful. Choose one small space to reclaim. Maybe your nightstand, your kitchen counter, the chair in your bedroom that became a clothes hanger. Clear it, wipe it down. Place something there that brings you joy. A candle, a photo, a single flower in a jar. That's your freedom shelf, your reminder that space can be sacred. The beauty of this challenge isn't in how much you let go, but in how you feel after each day. A little more clear, a little more steady, a little more like yourself. And if you miss a day or feel too tired, that's okay. This isn't a race, it's a rhythm, a soft return to the life you deserve. One choice, one object, one breath at a time. Now, before we end, there's just one last thought I want to share. One final whisper from the heart to remind you why this work, this gentle letting go, is so very worth it. What you gain when you let go. You know, when we talk about letting go, we often focus on what we're losing. The sweater we held on to for years, the souvenir from a trip long past, the box of memories that lived quietly in the back of the closet. But here's the gentle truth no one tells you often enough. Letting go isn't about losing, it's about gaining. You gain space, yes, but more than that, you gain peace. Breathing room, a clearer mind, a quieter heart. You gain the ability to move freely in your home, to open a drawer without frustration, to sit in your favorite chair without having to shift piles aside. You gain time, precious time not spent managing clutter, but enjoying the things that truly matter. And most of all, you gain clarity. Clarity about what supports you, what lifts you, and what gently holds you as you move forward into this chapter of life. I've seen it over and over again in my own journey and in the lives of friends who've walked this path. They say, I never realized how heavy it all felt until it was gone. So as you move through your days, remember this. Each small thing you release is a gift you give yourself. Not just more space, but more lightness, more calm, more you. You're not just letting go of stuff. You're making room for the life that's waiting for you to live it. And oh, what a beautiful life that still can be.